Hi. Dora wants to be in the video. So, I am living on a school bus, as you know, and I live in New York City. My daily life right now is I go to work, come back, take care of the kitties, I make myself a cup of tea, I watch the neighbors walking by. Um, the weather's starting to get a little colder. We've had some really beautiful days the last couple of days, like 50s and 60s, but and last night it rained, and I love it when it rains because when I'm in the bus and it rains, it sounds really nice and really like cozy. It just makes my little house feel like a little home. Reminds me of when I was living in the cabin in the woods up in in the Adirondacks where my family is. So I was thinking, every day I go to work and I see people more and more so now because the weather's getting colder. I see people coming into the subway and they are sleeping on cardboard boxes, or they're just, kind of like cuddled together or by themselves. Sometimes I don't see them sleeping. I see them panhandling or, selling art, making music. I see maybe 5 to 7, sometimes more people on a daily basis, and some of them are regulars. I was thinking how I want to do something to help them. And my first step is not just to, I give them food. Very rarely give them money. I just like to feed people. That's my thing. I'll ask them sometimes what they want if I have the time. If I don't, if I have food in my bag, I'll give them some food. So what I want to do is I want to actually talk to them, and I want to find out if they're getting help. I want to find out where they are in the stage of getting helped, what their plans are, if they're planning on just doing what they're doing for the entire winter, or if they are waiting on going into a homeless shelter or something, or if they have friends helping them out, or if they're leaving the city eventually. And what are their immediate needs? Like, what do they need? Do they need towels? Do they need wet wipes? Do they need toothbrushes? All that stuff. And based on that, I'm going to probably put together definitely going to put together some little care packages and, give them out. And just have like 5 or 10 in my bag at any given time. So whenever I see people, I'll just say, hey, do you want a care package? Does this work for you? And hopefully have extra food, because I feel for them. I spent last winter in the bus with really like no good source of heat, and yeah, it was sheltered, but it wasn't temperature regulated, so I was very cold. And this year I have a wood burning stove, and so at least when I come home I can build a fire and heat it up, and I'll be good for the night, and then next day repeat. But living outside in a New York City winter can be brutal, and living in the subway, they can be warm, but they're not necessarily warm, and some of those tunnels get pretty cold. The wind can go blasting down the tunnels. Well, I'm going to try and, see if there's anything I can do, because, I know everybody's situation is different, and people get into these predicaments, and, you can't blame people for getting into situations. You can't plan this stuff. Sometimes you make a wrong turn, or maybe something happened, and New York City rents are insane, and that's obviously why I chose to create my own RV, my own tiny home, and I live on this school bus that I've made into a little apartment on wheels. That was just me being cautious and careful and living in anticipation of not being able to afford New York City rents, and I knew that day was coming. It's not that I can't afford them, because I do have a skill that will allow me to make enough money to get a fairly decent apartment. But I've lived that life and I don't want to live it anymore. I'm 54 years old and I don't want to live just to have a roof over my head and spend every single penny that I have, towards rent. So that to me was not a life, not a good life, not a life that had room for creativity, not a life that had room for the things that I love to do, not a life that had room even for really like quality time with my family. So, this was a choice that I made and I'm happy with it. But now, like, I've been much more aware, much more sensitive to the people who don't have something like I have and who can't afford rents and who remain in New York City. I think there's a squirrel on my roof. So I'm gonna do something. I'll keep you posted. I I think it might start small, but it's something that I feel really strongly about and do want to help. So say bye, Dora. She says bye. She's my little baby. She's my 15-year-old co-pilot. She can't drive, but I can. Bye, Dora.